My daughter asked me to walk her down the aisle. I bought a new suit, practiced holding back tears, and dreamed about that moment for years. On the day of the wedding, she took me aside and said, "Actually, I want Mom's new husband to do it, it's just. He fits the aesthetic better." I sat in the second row, numb, watching another man walk my daughter toward her future. After the ceremony, she hugged me and said, "You'll always be special, just, not in that way." The photographer didn't take a single picture of me. A week later, I got a generic thank you card with no signature. I'm Bill. I'm 58 years old. I live in Eugene, Oregon, and I've worked in the same auto repair shop since I was 24. I've been the guy fixing engines, changing oil, and crawling under cars while other people move up and out. I've always lived simple. Never needed much. Just wanted a quiet life and to raise my daughter right. Her name's Kayla. She's 26 now. Her mom, Shelley, left when Kayla was 8. It wasn't a big dramatic thing. One morning she just told me she wasn't happy and that she needed to go find herself. I didn't know what the hell that meant, but she left anyway. Moved to California. Didn't call for almost a year. So I raised Kayla alone. I cooked for her. Braided her hair when she'd let me. Learned how to paint her nails when she went through that sparkle phase. Helped her build a volcano for the 5th grade science fair. I showed up to every recital, every game, every parent-teacher night. We didn't have much money, but I did what I could. Took on extra shifts. Skipped vacations. I even sold my motorcycle so I could cover her college deposit. That bike was my dream when I was younger. But I told myself, dreams change. She was mine now. She went to school in Vermont. Said she wanted to get far from Oregon, start fresh. I understood. At least I thought I did. But when she came back after graduation, she was different. Distant. More polished. Talked a lot about branding and energy and vibes. I didn't get half of what she said, but I smiled and nodded. Then she met Brad. He's from Connecticut. His family has old money, like yacht club money. Works in creative strategy. I don't know what that means, but he always wears beige and never shakes hands properly. I tried to like him. Really. I kept telling myself, if she loves him, that's what matters. When she called to say they were engaged, I was sitting in the garage. She said, "Dad, I want you to walk me down the aisle." I damn near cried. I had imagined that moment since the day she was born. I pictured taking her hand, leading her to her future, looking into her eyes and telling her I was proud. I bought a new suit. Navy blue. Got it tailored even though I hate getting measured. Practiced my walk. Practiced what I'd say if I cried. Practiced smiling without showing how emotional I felt. The wedding was in Sausalito, at some ocean view villa. Her mom and her new husband, Greg, had paid for most of it. Greg, some ex-tech guy, now into wine or something. I never liked him. Too smooth. Too polished. But whatever. It was Kayla's day. I drove down, checked into a cheap motel while the rest of them stayed in a resort. Nobody offered to help me cover anything. That stung, but I let it slide. I kept telling myself, just make it through the weekend. Be there for her. At the rehearsal dinner, I sat mostly alone. Brad's family barely looked at me. Kayla came over for 5 minutes, introduced me to someone I already forgot, and moved on. I gave her a scrapbook I'd made, photos from her childhood, drawings, old report cards I'd saved, birthday cards she'd written me. She smiled, said, "Ah, cute," then handed it off to her maid of honor like it was a napkin. I sat in the motel that night and stared at the ceiling. Told myself not to make a big deal out of it. The next morning, 2 hours before the wedding, she knocked on my door. I thought maybe she wanted to take a photo together or go over the walk. I was excited, stupidly. Instead, she sat down and said, "Dad, I wanted to talk to you about the ceremony." Her voice was tight. I already knew something was off. She said, "I think I want Greg to walk me down the aisle." I stared at her, thinking maybe I misheard. She went on. "It's just, he fits the aesthetic better. You know, with the venue and the theme. He's elegant. You'll still sit in the second row. Right behind Mom." My heart didn't break. It shut down. I remember nodding, because my body didn't know what else to do. She patted my hand and said, "You'll always be special. Just, not in that way." I don't know how long I sat there after she left. The suit felt tight all of a sudden. Like it didn't belong on me. At the ceremony, I sat in the second row like some distant uncle. Greg wore a white tux and smiled like he'd earned the moment. Kayla walked beside him like she was proud of him. Proud to have him on her arm. I watched them pass me. I watched her eyes skip right over me. During the reception, nobody approached me. I ate alone. Drank 2 beers. The photographer didn't take a single picture with me. Not even a group shot. I stayed until the cake was cut. Then I left without saying goodbye. A week later, I got a thank you card. Generic. "Thanks for being part of our special day." No signature. No personal message. Just typed font on ivory paper. That's when I decided I was done. I started slowly. First, I changed my will. Kayla had been the only one in it. Now, every cent, my house, my savings, even the life insurance, goes to a scholarship fund I set up for kids raised by single parents. Kids who know what it means to struggle, to be overlooked. Then I called Deborah, my cousin. She runs a small blog about local life. I told her everything. She wrote a post about it. The father who wasn't good enough for his daughter's aesthetic. It hit home with a lot of people. It got shared on local radio. My shop had more customers than ever that week. I never sent Kayla the link. Didn't need to. I blocked her number. Took down the family photos at my shop. Packed up the scrapbook and put it in the attic. That was almost a year ago. A few weeks back, she showed up at my shop. No call. No warning. She looked tired. Not the polished, social media-ready Kayla I remembered. Just tired. She stood at the counter while I was finishing up a break job and said, "Dad, can we talk?" I looked at her and said, "I've got work to do." She nodded like she expected that. Said, "I just want to know why you cut me out." I wiped my hands on a rag and walked over. Looked her in the eye and said, "Because you made it clear I wasn't part of your story anymore. So I made sure I wouldn't be." She didn't cry. She just stood there. Then she said, "I made a mistake." I said, "We all do. But some you don't get to take back." Then I walked back to the car I was working on. She stood there another minute. Then left. And that's where it stands. A few days after Kayla showed up at my shop, I started getting calls from numbers I didn't recognize. I let them go to voicemail. Most were silent. A couple had breathing, like someone was about to speak and then didn't. I knew it was her. I didn't block them. I didn't answer either. Then Deborah called. "Bill, you might want to check the blog," she said. "There's been some comments." I went online. The story had made it onto a couple bigger websites. Nothing crazy, just local news aggregators, but enough to stir things up. And Kayla had finally seen it. Or maybe Brad did. Either way, someone close to her had. There were comments under the story now. Some supportive. Others nasty. Sounds like a bitter old man who couldn't handle not being the center of attention. Maybe there's more to the story. Dads don't just get cut out for no reason. That one hit hard. But there were people who got it, too. My dad walked me down the aisle, even though we hadn't spoken in years. I can't imagine choosing anyone else. I'm crying for this man. I hope she realizes what she lost. Then someone posted screenshots from Kayla's wedding website, confirming what I'd said. She'd listed Greg as father of the bride. My name was nowhere. I shut my laptop. The part of me that felt vindicated didn't last long. Mostly, I just felt hollow. That night, I sat in my recliner and stared at the blank TV screen for almost 2 hours. The phone rang again. Still unknown. I didn't answer. Then the email started. One from Shelley. It said, I didn't know she'd cut you out. I thought you two talked. I'm sorry. Greg didn't ask to do it, she came to him. Then, please don't turn this into a war. War. She thought I was starting a war. I didn't respond. Just closed the message and blocked the email. But it stuck with me. That word. War. Was that what this was? Or was this just what happened when people rewrite history and expect you to smile through it? A week later, Brad showed up at the shop. He wore the same smug beige shirt, but this time, he looked nervous. Hey, Mr. Morrison, he said. Can we talk? I wiped my hands and looked him over. Didn't know you knew where I worked. He gave a half smile. Kayla told me. She's been, not doing great. The wedding stuff, it wasn't meant to hurt you. I didn't say anything. He looked around. Look, I know we're not close. And I'm not trying to make excuses. But we're trying to start a family. She keeps saying she feels like she broke something that can't be fixed. I laughed once, sharp. Now she's worried about family. He shifted his weight. I want to ask if maybe you'd be open to meeting. Just once. No pressure. I looked him dead in the eye and said, let me tell you something. I raised that girl alone. From age 8 to college. She was everything. And she threw me away like a used napkin because her wedding had a theme. And you stood beside her while she did it. He opened his mouth to speak, but I wasn't done. You want me to play grandpa now? Sit around the Christmas table like none of it happened? I sat in the second row while a stranger walked my daughter into her new life. Brad swallowed. So that's it? You're done with her forever? I shook my head. She made her choice. You don't get to light a bridge on fire and then complain about the smoke. He left without another word. Later that night, Kayla sent me a letter. Not an email. A real letter. Handwritten. I almost didn't open it. But I did. Inside, she wrote, Dad, I was wrong. I got caught up in appearances. I let Mom's world swallow me whole. I thought I had to become someone else to be taken seriously. But that day, when I looked out and saw you sitting in the second row, I knew I'd broken something. I've thought about it every day since. I'm not asking you to forgive me right away. But I want to try. I need you to know you're still my dad. And I miss you. I sat there staring at it. No apology would erase what happened. But it was the first real thing she'd said in years. I didn't write back. Not yet. I didn't respond to her letter. Not because I wanted to punish her. I just didn't know what I would even say. What could I write that didn't sound like bitterness dressed up as forgiveness? I kept working. The shop stayed busy. People still brought up the article sometimes. One woman brought me a pie and said, for the dad who got left out. That one nearly broke me. A month passed. Then one Saturday morning, I got a knock at the door. It was a social worker. "Mr. Morrison?" she asked. "Do you have a few minutes?" I nodded, confused. She introduced herself, then said, "This is about your daughter. Kayla." She looked uncomfortable. "Is she okay?" "She's safe," the woman said quickly. "But she came into our office yesterday after a domestic dispute. Police were involved. She's staying in a temporary shelter right now." My stomach dropped. I let her inside. She sat on the old plaid couch while I stood with my hands on the back of a chair. "What happened?" "She wouldn't let me share all the details," she said. "But there's been escalating tension in her home. Her husband, Brad, was detained for questioning. No formal charges yet, but there's a history of emotional manipulation and control. She said you were her emergency contact, from years ago. She asked us to tell you she didn't know who else to call." I stood there like someone had just drained the air from the room. She gave me a card with a number. "She's not asking you to come. Just said she wanted you to know." I didn't call right away. I didn't know what to do. This was the same daughter who cut me out like an unwanted photo. And now she needed me again. 2 days later, I finally called. She answered on the second ring. Her voice was quiet. "Hi, Dad." I didn't say anything at first. Just listened to her breathe. Then I said, "Are you safe?" She let out a sound, something between a laugh and a sob. "Yeah. For now." We talked for almost half an hour. About nothing. About everything. She said Brad had been slowly chipping away at her confidence. Criticizing her clothes. Isolating her from friends. Saying she wasn't good enough. He said I was too plain. That I didn't match his aesthetic, she said bitterly. The words punched me in the gut. "I get it now," she added. "What I did to you. I get how much it hurts to be replaced." I didn't try to console her. I didn't rush to forgive. But I listened. That was all I could give in that moment. She stayed at the shelter for a week, then moved into a rental apartment through a women's assistance program. She started therapy. I sent her a care package, food, books, old photos. No note. Then I found out something that shook me even harder. Brad had been tracking her. Through an old phone account she forgot to cancel. She only found out when a friend noticed him parked down the street from her building. I helped her change phones. Changed the locks. Paid for a security camera out of my own pocket. The part of me that wanted to stay angry started to lose its grip. She was my kid. And someone was making her afraid to sleep at night. She came back to Oregon 3 weeks later. Not for good, just to feel safe. She stayed in my guest room. Didn't talk much. Mostly sat on the porch, drank tea, and stared at the mountains. One night, I caught her flipping through the old scrapbook. The one I gave her at the rehearsal dinner. She must have found it in the attic. Her fingers lingered on a picture of us fishing when she was 11. She looked up and said, "I was so proud of that trout." "You caught it with a hot dog," I said. She smiled. Then her face crumpled. I don't know why I became that person. I didn't have an answer. But I knew the story wasn't over. She stayed with me for 6 weeks. Slowly, Kayla started to return to herself, or maybe to a version of herself I hadn't seen since high school. She helped out around the house, cooked dinner sometimes. We didn't talk much about the wedding, or Brad, or California. Just small things. Enough to patch over the silence. But I still kept my guard up. Some wounds don't bleed, they just pulse beneath the surface. Then one day, I got a call at the shop. It was from a lawyer. "Are you aware that Mr. Brad Harris has filed a civil claim?" he asked. defamation and intentional infliction of emotional distress. He's citing the article, public comments, and alleged damages to his reputation. I froze. He's suing me? Yes, sir. We'll need a statement by next week. I hung up without saying goodbye. This man, this smug coward, was now trying to sue me because people found out what a monster he was. I told Kayla. She looked sick. I didn't think he'd go that far, she said. He said he'd ruin me if I made him look bad. But I didn't think he'd come after you. Now it was war. I contacted Deborah. She connected me with a lawyer who agreed to help pro bono. We started digging, phone records, texts, voicemails Brad left on Kayla's old phone. Screenshots of threatening messages. Social media posts he had since deleted. Turns out Brad wasn't just cruel, he was careless. We filed a countersuit. Not just for defamation, but for harassment, stalking, and attempted intimidation. Then, I sent copies of everything to his job. Turns out his fancy marketing firm didn't like being associated with emotional abuse and threats. He was let go within the week. Quietly, but completely. And Kayla? She testified. In court. Against the man she once thought would protect her. She was nervous. Shaking. But when the judge asked her what she wanted from the case, she looked over at me and said, I want him to know what it's like to be powerless. To be erased. The same words she had once made me feel. Now turned outward. Brad settled. Fast. Agreed to drop his lawsuit, pay damages, and sign a restraining order. No admission of guilt, but we didn't need one. We had the truth. After court, we walked out into the parking lot. Kayla reached for my hand. I let her take it. She said, I know I can't undo what I did. I looked at her. She was different now. Not the perfect daughter I once imagined. But maybe something better. Real. I didn't need perfect, I said. I needed honest. Then we drove home. Quietly. A few weeks later, she moved into a small apartment near downtown. Started working part-time at the library while finishing her master's online. She comes over every Sunday now. Brings pie. Sometimes we play cards. Sometimes we don't talk at all. But she's there. Last month, she handed me a new scrapbook. One she made this time. It had pictures of us. Notes. And a single-page letter at the back. It read, You were never too plain. I was too blind. You were always the center of my world, I just forgot where I came from. I don't want to be forgiven. I want to earn it. Thank you for still answering the door. I don't know what the future holds. But I know this, sometimes revenge isn't about fire. It's about making them feel what they made you feel, and watching them come back from it. And sometimes, they actually do. That scrapbook sitting on my coffee table now. Right next to the first one. And this time, I don't feel invisible. I feel seen.